The season we came out of was a very, very tough one. A lot of things that we thought we would be doing for the rest of our life just kind of did not work out. I really feel like the Lord sort of revealed to me in this season that I was sort of at a crossroads where I could either stop and reevaluate and seek the Father and learn what it is to be a child of God outside of what I have to offer, or I could just tough it out and quit in 10 or 15 years due to bitterness and due to burnout. And I was not in ministry for the first time pretty much almost in my life. We found this retreat and it was just kind of bullet point for bullet point in the description of it, what I felt like I wanted to accomplish. I think what I really expected was, okay, I'm gonna get some practical tools to help me work towards deliverance. They hand us our schedules. There's something that says physical activity. They took us down to the shores of this lake and they introduced us to this thing they do called the burden run. They wanted us on this jog to seek the Lord about a burden that we had been carrying. But I'm at the same time just sort of processing with the Lord, okay, like what's the burden that I'm carrying right now? Because I felt the heaviness. And so I was like, anger, bitterness, spiritual trauma, emotional trauma, fear, anxiety, depression. And the Father was just like, yeah, those are things for sure, but they're symptoms. I don't want to treat the symptoms. I want to treat the disease. I was just thinking back to who I was in this difficult season that I had before. I slowly realized the truth about how I thought about myself in that season. I thought that version of Kaden was weak. He was a coward. He should have protected himself better. He should have protected his wife. He should have protected his friends. He should have seen all of the red flags. And I realized that I hated that Kaden. I hated that person. The Father just kind of said to me, he was like, Kaden, your past self is not a different person. You hate yourself and you blame yourself for what you've experienced and what you've been through. Okay. Finally get to the top of this hill, see all these piles of huge rocks, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is not what I signed up for. And what they had us do was write down our burden on these rocks. We were going to pick these rocks up and we were going to carry them for another quarter or half a mile. We got to another spot where we stopped, where they had these little wooden sort of platforms with 4 handles on them. And so we all put our rocks on this wooden thing and took that opportunity to literally and metaphorically share our burdens with each other. We carried that for another quarter mile. So they had us put our rocks on the edge of this big steep hill. I picked up my rock, walked up to that place on the hill, and really just took a moment to soak in how cumbersome it was. Just the dirtiness of it and the jagged sides and how uncomfortable it was and how much it hurt. I screamed, may the Lamb receive the full reward of his suffering. And I tossed self-hatred off a cliff. As soon as I cast that burden down, in that moment, the Father just, it was like this burden had taken up all of the extra space in my life. The Father came down and filled that void. I heard, maybe for the first time in my life, the voice of the Father speak identity over me and speak truth over me and tell me that I was his beloved son in whom he was well pleased. I woke up that next morning in despair at the thought of not being back in full-time ministry. I was like, okay, Lord, you're gonna have to give me the firmest no you've ever given anyone. Otherwise, as soon as I get back, I'm jumping back in. He did pretty much the complete opposite. That next week, back on staff, working for the kingdom.